Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. As from the video title, today we're going to be trying to draw in IBISPAINT X. I have tried to draw in this program before when I was kind of first starting out digital art and experimenting on the iPad, but I never really got into this program because I didn't really care for the default brushes. And now that I know that you can download brushes from IBISPAINT's online store, I really wanted to try diving into this program again. And now I'm going to just show you quickly the brushes that I ended up using throughout this entire painting. So the first brush that I'm going to be using is this brush. If you go to the settings, it is this brush. I'm not too sure what the name is since it is in Japanese. But I will be putting down the QR codes on the video so you guys can find these brushes for yourself and also use them in your own drawings. I really like this brush because it reminds me of my Procreate sketching brush from the Jing Sketch brush pack. And as you can see, it makes like a pretty soft type of line, and you can go really thin and to really thick, and I really like the diversity this brush gives, and I like the feathering quality that it also has. And then the next brush that I mainly use throughout the drawing is this sort of rendering brush. It's called Rendering by Linda. I didn't expect to really like this brush this much because I don't usually use brushes that have a very strong sense of blending. But actually, I think now that I've tried this type of brush, I think I like these more blended type of brushes. It's not super heavy blending, but it's enough where I could make different colors and softer looking shadows and lines throughout my painting, which I really enjoyed using. So since I do have a painterly style, I also render my paintings a lot before I deem them as finished. And surprisingly, I used the sketching brush for my rendering. So I didn't just use this for sketching, I also used this to make the lines of the painting a little bit more kind of readable and not as sharp, because this brush did have more of a softer feel to it. So finally, I'm going to show you the two brushes I used to kind of add some extra effects or decorative elements into the drawing. So the first one is this kind of triangular looking. So this brush really reminds me of kind of broken glass kind of effect, and I really wanted to implement this in the painting, and I'll show you guys when we get into the drawing process how I use this in the drawing. And then finally, I use this kind of hexagonal looking particle brush that I really liked using, and I kind of tried to use this to mimic that star brush I have in Procreate, where I kind of make little light particles, kind of dust particles in my drawing. So yeah, I will be using all three of these brushes throughout the drawing, and I'll try to point out when I use them and how I use them. So yeah, let's get into the video. So for today's drawing, we are going to be drawing Regis Altair, who is a VTuber affiliated with Holostars English. I've been really wanting to draw him for a long time now, and I thought this was kind of the perfect opportunity to try out IBISPAINT and then try kind of to draw something a little bit more on the simpler side. So instead of drawing Altair in kind of his original outfit, I kind of go for more of a comfy, everyday kind of looking outfit. When we get far in the drawing, I'll try to point out kind of how I try to implement some of his original design work into how I created his more kind of comfy looking design. Basically, this pose that I chose to draw him in, I just found this pose I liked on Pinterest, and I kind of liked how one hand was kind of leaning on one side of the head, and I thought it was kind of a cute little pose. So I thought this kind of matched Altair's personality the best, which is kind of why I decided to do this pose for him. So kind of like giving my thoughts and first impressions. This program wasn't too much of a learning curve, I would say. Something that gives me more trouble is like when we get into the coloring stage, but when it came to sketching, it was pretty much the same as how I do things in Procreate. I would say the only thing that kind of was different in IBISPaint is it definitely feels not as natural as Procreate does. I would say Procreate is really good at mimicking how like naturally it feels to draw in with like traditional mediums or kind of like in real life, not digitally. IBISPaint definitely had more of a desktop kind of feel, but also kind of implementing more of like how you would normally draw on the iPad. I think probably one of the things that I had to get used to was definitely the interface of this program, since I wasn't used to it. I wasn't really used to how like the color slider kind of was. And also what really annoyed me, like the one downside of this program is how the quick eyedropper tool works. I definitely had some gripes with it while I was sketching because I forgot to turn off the quick eyedropper, and while I was sketching it constantly kept changing my color sometimes if I pressed too hard, and I was getting a little bit annoyed. But I was kind of lazy and didn't turn it off right away. But eventually I did, and then it definitely became a smoother experience. But yeah, if you guys are first timers using this program, just remember to turn off that quick eyedropper tool in the settings, because it definitely kind of hinders your flow of drawing a bit when you're kind of not used to pressing so hard, and then the quick eyedropper tool kind of just changes your color all of a sudden. Okay, so now we're getting into the coloring stage. As always, I changed the color of my sketch. This time I was going for a more warmer like tone color feel to this painting, so I definitely tried to make my sketch lines on the warmer, like kind of like a reddish brown kind of warmer tone. And then I kind of tried to make like a sky kind of feeling, because I did want to create a backlight kind of coming behind Altair. So I really tried to do that later on when I changed the lighting in this drawing. I said before was I had a hard time adjusting to coloring on this program a bit. For one thing, when you change the colors with like the color slider, I wasn't really used to the diamond shape square on IBISPaint. I'm more used to kind of like the classic look that Procreate has, and I was just a little bit, it kind of threw me off because it was facing a different direction than usual, so I was having a bit trouble with that. And before I realized, I was also having a bit of trouble trying to put down just the basic colors of the drawing, because I was trying to use like some other brushes I downloaded, but because they were more on the blendy side, it just didn't work putting down flat colors. It was definitely hindering because the colors would constantly mix, but I didn't want them to mix when just putting down basic colors, and that was kind of like a problem I faced in the beginning. But once I kind of figured out what brush I like to use, then it was all good. I think what I ended up using was the pen fade brush to mostly put down solid colors. That's the default brush in IBISPaint, so you guys could definitely use that if you want to use that to just kind of do solid colors. Another thing I tried to do in this drawing was kind of experiment more with my style. So as you can see, I'm kind of adding some little highlights to the eyelids. I don't really do this that often, but I kind of wanted to see how it would look, kind of make like the skin look a little bit more dewy looking, I guess you could say. And yeah, so for Altair's sweatshirt, what I tried to do was implement some of his things from his original design. So I tried to put like the crest that he has kind of on his sweatshirt, I believe. And I tried to make the color kind of similar to that grayish tone he has in his sweatshirt as well. And I also added a slime. So the Altair's fandom, the mascot is slimes. So I kind of did my own interpretation of the slime mascot and kind of put like the shards of, because also the slime's original design has like those kind of shards on it. So I also tried to put that as well. I didn't try to do any kind of complicated color palette with this drawing. Overall, I just wanted to go for more of a warmer look with kind of using Altair as a contrast because he does have more cooler tones in his design. So I thought this warmer background would make him stand out more. So now I am changing the lighting a little bit more so I can really show that backlight. So what I do is I make a multiply layer, and then I'm gonna go over with kind of a peachy color, kind of like for the skin. And then I kind of try to put like different color shadows to kind of match with the other colors surrounding just the overall drawing. And then I also add an overlay layer, and that's how I'm gonna add more of the light. So I end up making kind of the light coming more from the left side of Altair. And I think eventually, oh, okay, so this is where also I use that brush I showed from the beginning of the video, the triangular looking broken glass brush. I add the broken glass shards in the background, kind of to, I guess, kind of mimicking kind of like those bokeh kind of lights effect. And I really liked, I thought it really matched this painting because Altair also in his original design kind of have like these shard like shapes kind of on his like where his hair is. So I thought this kind of was like a cool neat idea I could kind of implement. And then I also once again try to make the shadows a little bit more darker on Altair, especially since I want to give more of that backlight kind of feel to him. Okay, so I also use an overlay layer to kind of make the colors a little bit not as muddy looking, because when I used the multiply layer, he was still kind of looking a little too dark and muddy. And then finally I used an addition layer to kind of create more of a rim light, kind of so to emphasize more of that backlight. And now we're on the rendering stage. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I thought I was mainly going to be using the rendering by Linda brush for my rendering, but I honestly ended up using that brush to kind of mix the colors more like while I was rendering, but I used the sketching brush to make my line art more clean and just the overall like cleaner look to render the painting out. What really surprised me while rendering on IBISPaint was how softer my lines looked compared to my lines on Procreate. And this was kind of like my aha moment, because I was like, oh, this is kind of like what I wanted to do with my style in the future. And I think what I was missing in Procreate was just kind of adjusting my brushes more for that certain look I'm going for, and kind of like adjusting the brushes a little bit more to my style and just the pen pressure that I use. Basically, after using IBISPaint, I was definitely going to adjust my Procreate brushes. I ended up adjusting some of my Procreate brushes after my experience on IBISPaint. So hopefully I can show you guys what I changed in like maybe a future video. I am thinking about doing some kind of quick tutorial video for you guys, so maybe when doing that video I will show you kind of like what I changed in my Procreate tools, because that is more of my main program and I will still be using it in the future. So kind of going off on a tangent, I think I really been drawing a lot of Genshin fan art recently, and I kind of want to just have more of a variety of fan art and kind of what I want to draw in the future. I definitely want to try to get back into drawing more original artwork. For the longest time, I haven't been really drawing any too many original art pieces because, I don't know, for some reason I lost interest in it, and it's kind of just been in the back of my mind recently, and maybe hopefully I can create like a new OC or something that's a little bit more up to date, because a lot of my older OCs are from back when I was like a child or like in high school, so I kind of wanted to try to make some new OCs and see how that kind of goes, or kind of redesign some of my older OCs. That would be kind of I think a fun kind of project to do. Yeah, I hope to kind of draw more of the Tempest boys like in the future as well. Altair is my favorite member in the Hollow Tempest guild, but I definitely would like to draw the other guys as well. I also really like Magni as well, and I think I'm gonna I've been trying to draw kind of like an illustration of Flayon, so we'll see. Yeah, so if you guys are also fans of Hollow Tempest, yeah, I hope you guys can give me some suggestions if you have anything that you want to see. And yeah, like right now I'm just rendering the clothes. The clothes definitely took a lot of my time to render, because I'm definitely not the best when it comes to doing clothing folds and like making the clothes look actually realistic. But I think kind of what I achieved in this drawing I thought was nice, because I was able to achieve this more softer look. So I think the clothing rendering turned out pretty good. Rendering Altair's this crest was definitely a little bit kind of difficult. I had a hard time with the design in general, but yeah, it didn't really take too much time, luckily. But yeah, the rendering was definitely just a pretty smooth process overall. And yeah, I think I really enjoy drawing in IBISPAINT. I definitely would use this program, I think, more often now that I know I have some brushes that I really enjoy using, because the main reason why I didn't use this program for the longest time was I just didn't like the brushes, and the interface was a little bit hard to navigate, I would say, when I was first starting out. So back to the drawing. Right now I'm kind of redoing the slime's face, because in my sketch it was kind of a bit messy, and also I wanted to change kind of the lighting of the slime as well to kind of match the overall color tone of this painting. And yeah, so yeah, I definitely had to re-render the slime a little bit more than I expected. In the original design, the slime actually has his eyes open, but I decided to kind of do a closed eye look because I thought it would look more cuter. And then finally, I'm adding those hexagonal kind of bokeh lights that I showed in the beginning of the video, that brush. And then I'm going to use Gaussian blur and kind of blur those to look more softer and not so hexagonal looking, to kind of make like white little particles. And yeah, that's the whole drawing. This was an overall very simple drawing. And I think it turned out really great. I really love the color palette, I would say, of this drawing a lot. And I hope to do kind of similar color palettes like this more in the future. So yeah, thank you for watching and hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!